Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for the introduction. If you find my name a little bit hard to spell, just call me June, like the month. I'm actually originally from China, and I've been living in Vancouver for 10 years. So my name really just means, if you put it on written, Chinese, gentleman, or the king, depending on the context. Very much like British, very relevant, right? So today I want to talk about a little bit about how we use ePortfolio to support one of our programs called Community Care Licensing Officer Program. And of course, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the story behind it. So I currently work for the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Innovation at the Justice Institute. Does anyone have any idea about what a Justice Institute would do? Someone is shaking, someone is nodding. So basically, we're the provincial institute that support law enforcement, public safety, community health, and social justice, all the essential good stuff that other institutes don't get to do much. So I feel very privileged to work in the institute. So here's my agenda. Let's talk about ePortfolio, experiential learning, reflection, and all this yada, 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 repetitive. And I looked at it, I'm like, who wants to listen to all this? So let's restart. Let's talk about student experience behind this, because really what's behind this is experience that students get and how ePortfolio is helping them to achieve their career goals and really help them to have that reflection and curation and really think about what they did in the program, right? So here's a story of Laura. I'm choosing Laura because she's a friend of mine. She never did the CCLO program. She'd never been to Justice Institute, but I just thought that's a cute name. So, and then let's imagine this. Laura's been working, in a child care center for many years, and she's been thinking about change her career. And she heard a little bit about CCLO and JIBC, lots of names here, from a friend who actually works in the health authority. So she's like, okay, maybe I should do that and learn a little bit more about it. So Laura wonders, where is this freaking institute and what this program is about and what she can do after that. So if you spend some time searching our institute, you'll find JIBC and the program. Basically, it's a program for people to advance their career in the field as more of, I call them inspection officer. They do more than that, but they inspect the facilities for people who are vulnerable, like kids, elders, you get that. So, and JI locates in the traditional territory of New Westminster, which is home to indigenous people, including Kikite, Musqueam, and Coastal Salish. And I'm also an immigrant, so I'm reminded that these people are before me, before us in the land. So a little bit about the program itself. Laura needs to understand what it takes to complete the program, right? So essentially, it's a 30-credit program, and there's 9 required courses plus 1 final course. And with the completion of the program, most of them will go into a career that support the safety and make sure they're up to the standards of facilities in the province. So in those required courses, there are administrative laws, inspections, reporting, all these courses. But really, the final course here, there were 2 options. One was the capstone or sort of research project for those who are already in the field, working as an officer. There's another option for Lara. If she never had any experience in that role, she would be doing sort of 6-week, full-time, 9 to 5, that kind of placement with a health authority. And of course, she needs to be assigned to certain authority, and someone needs to agree to mentor her in that period of time. And of course, you need to make that trip and make sure that everything works for her. Now, I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise here, a minute or two, so that you're not just sitting there and listening. If you or you have a friend whose name is Laura, she's, ready for this program, what might be the challenge for her to even finish that 6-week full-time placement? And you can talk to your people who are in your table, or if you want to think it on your own, go ahead. All right, it's about a minute. For the time's sake, I would ask you to kind of wrap up your conversation. Anyone want to share just one or two things? We don't need to go through all the tables. Totally voluntary. What may be some of the challenges?
We just talked about the time. 9 to 5 is tough for
Maybe longer. Exactly, and maybe longer if you count in the travel time. If I don't actually live in the region where I'm assigned to, right? What else? Exactly. You have to leave your job. It's full-time, 6 weeks. You might have to leave your kids behind if you have family too, right? So, yeah, these are great thoughts about the challenges Laura might face. I'm listing a few, and there are more challenges that we listed in the book. By the way, I do want to say the book is so fantastic. I love touching it. The work that you put into this handbook, I really appreciate it. I'm going to bring them back to my institute. They're already excited to see and read it. But if you want more details, you can find it. We're in the last case study. Case 21. But these are the challenges, including money, time, resources, taking care of families and their own work, right? So, as you all mentioned. So what we were trying to do is that, okay, well, it's challenging and people are having a hard time to graduate because that's a final course. If I were a Laura, I can't afford, or I'm in a situation where I can't just go and finish the course, I'm stuck, right? So that was a situation where we were facing, and that was actually in COVID, and there's really a lot of constraint about face-to-face, a placement. Of course, there's also budgetary reasons that we all just mentioned. So we were thinking about, okay, how can we change this, provide more flexibility, have a little bit more inclusivity for students who might not be financially, able to do that. So we're proposing a 12-week online instructor-facilitated course that covers 5 of the main areas of professional practice, including inspections, administration, all the work I just mentioned. And we want to do a little more role play and case study and problem-based learning. And obviously, we want to support their career development through the program. And is ePortfolio the answer? We didn't think about that at the beginning, but then as we learn more about PebblePad and ePortfolio, we really think that's a perfect nature for us to use ePortfolio. So as a consultation course design begins, we were thinking about the assessment. Many of you are probably very familiar with the backward design, right? So we start with the assessment, at the outcome. So this is what we were doing. There's 5 areas of the professional work, and then there's discussions. And then we really want to capture the ePortfolios so that they can curate the work they actually did in the program and somehow share it with whoever might be hiring them, or just share with their families and be proud of what they did in the program, because the freaking time they put in, right? And nothing to really show after your learning management system is closed. So you'll see that ePortfolio doesn't take a lot of the percentage here, because we want to make sure it's also simple and easy for the students. We want to assign 3 tasks in that ePortfolio. One is about me, one is curate your work, and put a page about how to contact you. Of course, we have a lot more detailed instructions in the template we provide to the students, but that's legit. We want to make it simple and easy so students feel that they can access and actually get it done within the course. What this is benefiting Laura is that it's kind of like enabling them a little bit through the framework of UDL. Are people kind of familiar with the language here? Yeah. So now, CCLO was doing a great job already by providing 2 options. Now we're adding the 3rd option for a student like Laura, so that they're able to find a way to graduate and find a pathway that help them to express themselves. And of course, they're learning through varied authentic assessment, and they're able to curate those work into a portfolio. And really what I think is important here is to start the cycle of collect, select feedback, and reflect, share cycle. And this kind of goes to the instructor too. We've been doing reflective work in a lot of programs, but articulating it and saying it out loud to students and saying it out loud to the instructor is important. We're drawing some inspirations from journal articles, and this is one of my favorite models that kind of capture all these. So in the middle, you will see ePortfolio, but it's kind of capturing the learning landscape where students are gaining experiences from the learning in the curriculum. And of course, they're trying to curate the work and put them up as evidence of learning. And then you have the cycle of learning, sharing, feedback, right? So maybe I was reading this a moment earlier. I was thinking, it says learning experience embedded in the curriculum. What about experience that is outside the curriculum? What about just simple contact with someone that you never met, and those may be the experience we want to encourage students to capture too. So if I have a challenge, if I have an opportunity to revise this, I would add a little bit about the experience outside the curriculum. So what does Laura need to be successful? One is that they obviously need some instruction around how to do this. 2 years ago, we were in Blackboard Original. Now we're going to Blackboard Ultra. The different learning management system. But anyways, so the look you have right now is 2 years, was 2 years ago, but it's changing a little bit. But basically, you'll find customized resources, instructions for students, and of course, they'll be oriented to PebblePad and the idea of ePortfolio. Many of students never had the chance to work with ePortfolio, so it might be a little bit foreign for them. So we do need to tell them through stories why it's relevant, how this might help your career, and how you may be able to curate your work from the courses that you did in this program and captured into a vessel that you can share with other people. One of the feedback I remember got is, I don't remember a health authority requiring me to submit a portfolio. And that's very true, but it's not about being required. It's about what you can tell them proactively and thinking things through, right? So once you tell students those things and stories, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. And obviously that orientation happens to the instructor too, because we work in the Center for Teaching and Learning. We don't teach the course directly, so we need to make sure the instructor is up to speed with Atlas, which is a little bit daunting. But we've been trying to do upgrades through LTI 1.1 to 1.3, a little bit technical term here. All you know is that it's getting better, so the instructor can click and jump into it without any other trouble, and they can review and provide feedback to students. I won't bother sharing you Atlas because there's lots of experts here who can do that for you. Of course, we provide support to students one-on-one or the instructor if they came to us. But as far as I can remember through all the courses, only maybe 2 or 3 students reached out. Most of them are quite comfortable with navigating Pebble Plus and create the portfolio they need to create. The only one thing I can remember is that they usually came to me because one small thing that is so small, the rest is already there. There's a very small thing, for example, how do I upload PDF? Because it's very different from Google or Google Doc or anything that you drag and drop, right? This requires a little bit uploading and creating the link, and I think that might be some of the UI, UX change for PebblePad to consider how to make drag and, is there an possibility for drag and drop documents into the portfolio? Of course, there's ongoing feedback from the instructor through Atlas. So this is one of the portfolio that I want to show you. As I mentioned, we only asked them to do 3 things: about me, some learning evidences from the program, and a contact me page. But students usually go beyond that. So they'll do a little bit about, this is quite lovely, and then they'll do artifacts. Can you go to the the last one, yeah, artifacts. This is one that I was surprised that they would try to upload the skills they actually did in the program, interview skills, analysis, and case study. Even though we don't generally have a competency map for this program, but I thought the student is very good at articulating the skills and competencies she's gained through the program. Thank you very much for showing this. So that was the third option of the program, right? Laura is able to graduate more easily because the course is becoming more accessible, flexible, and has a little bit more support on career development and skill development. And she finally has the opportunity to curate her work from the program, and hopefully that will add value to her future career development. Yeah. Any questions from you? I'm going to stop here because I don't want to show you the technical side of it, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it. And also remember, the handbook is excellent. There's a lot of details there.